March 16, 1943. 41 degrees 30 minutes north, 38 degrees 47 minutes west. North Atlantic, 600 miles southeast of Newfoundland. The merchant ship SS William C. Gorgas cuts through black water under a moonless sky. Captain Lieutenant Klaus Hartmann peers through the periscope of U-230, his eye socket pressed against the cold rubber eyepiece as the crosshairs settle on the freighter's dark silhouette. 7,000 tons of displacement. Riding low in the water fully loaded. At this range, barely 800 meters, he can make out the cargo booms on her deck, the faint glow of her navigation lights barely visible through the blackout shutters. His breath fogs the lens. Bearing steady, Hartmann whispers to his crew in the cramped control room. The air inside the pressure hull tastes of diesel fuel, unwashed men, and stale sauerkraut. Range 750 meters. Speed 8 knots. She's a sitting duck. In the forward torpedo room, Oberleutnant Sir C. Werner Schaefer places his hand on the cold steel casing of torpedo number 3. The T3 Dackel electric torpedo weightless, silent, deadly. After 42 days at sea, after stalking convoy SC-122 for 3 days across the grey waste of the Atlantic, this moment of violence approaches with the mathematical precision of clockwork. Tube 1 ready, comes the report through the speaking tube. Tube 2 ready. Hartmann watches the target ship plow forward, oblivious. Somewhere aboard that vessel, perhaps 50 men eat their evening meal, write letters home, play cards in the crew quarters. In 90 seconds, most of them will be dead. He feels nothing, neither joy nor remorse. Only calculation. Only the cold arithmetic of tonnage. Fire 1. The U-boat shudders. A hiss of compressed air. The torpedo leaves its tube with a metallic thunk that reverberates through the hull. Fire 2. Another shudder. 21 seconds to impact. Hartmann counts them down in his head, watching through the periscope. The Gorgas continues forward, unsuspecting. Her watch officers on the bridge scan the darkness, searching for the danger they cannot see. 18 seconds. 15. 10. The first torpedo strikes the Gorgas amidships, just below the waterline. Through the periscope, Hartmann sees a brilliant yellow-white flash, a geyser of water and steel fragments erupting into the night. The concussion travels across the water as a physical force. 3 seconds later, the second torpedo hits forward, tearing into her number 2 hold. Both eels running true, Hartmann announces. Direct hits. The crew erupts in muted celebration, whispered congratulations, slaps on shoulders. The Gorgas lists immediately to starboard, her back broken. Men scramble across her tilting deck in the darkness. Lifeboats swing out on their davits. But Hartmann knows the mathematics. In water this cold, perhaps 38 degrees Fahrenheit hypothermia will claim any survivors within 20 minutes. The nearest rescue vessel is hours away. He watches through the periscope as the Gorgas settles lower. 8 minutes after the first impact, her bow lifts into the air at a 45-degree angle. Her propeller, still spinning uselessly, clears the surface. Then she slides beneath the waves, stern first, in a boiling cauldron of escaping air and debris. Log it, Hartmann orders. Freighter, 7,000 gross register tons, sunk at 0247 hours. Grid square BC 7834. That makes you 230 score for this patrol. 4 ships, 28,000 tons. But Hartmann cannot know that the Gorgas is already being replaced. That at this very moment, 3,000 miles west, in the shipyards of Richmond, California, and Portland, Maine, and Houston, Texas, the keel plates for 3 new Liberty ships are being laid. That American welders are working 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, assembling these vessels at a rate that would have been considered impossible just 18 months ago. He cannot know that he is losing. 400 miles to the northwest, in a map room at Western Approaches Command in Liverpool, England, Commander Roger Wynne marks another red pin on the large plotting chart that covers the wall. Each pin represents a merchant ship lost. The chart looks like a disease spreading across the Atlantic, a constellation of red that grows thicker with each passing week. That's the Gorgas, Wynne says quietly, though no one in particular is listening. Convoy SC-122. She was carrying steel plate and timber. He pauses, checking his notes. And 3,000 tons of wheat. Beside him, a young Wren officer, Jane Morrison, 23 years old, daughter of a Liverpool shipwright, updates the loss figures in the ledger. Her handwriting is precise, mechanical, each number entered with the same careful script despite the horror those numbers represent. That brings March's total to 95 ships, Morrison says. Her voice remains steady, professional, but Wynne notices how her hand trembles slightly as she writes. 553,000 tons in 16 days. 95 ships. In 16 days. Wynne removes his glasses and rubs his eyes. He hasn't slept properly in 4 days. None of them have. The war in the Atlantic has reached a crisis point that few outside this room truly comprehend. At this rate of loss, Britain will be starved into surrender within 6 months. The mathematics are brutal and unavoidable. Where's the count on U-boats at sea? Wynne asks. Morrison flips back several pages. Intelligence estimates 240 operational boats as of March 1st. Admiral Donitz is deploying them in wolf-pack formations of 15 to 20 boats. They're concentrating on the Black Pit. The Black Pit, that deadly stretch of the North Atlantic beyond the range of land-based aircraft, where convoys must travel for 5 days without air cover. Here, the wolf packs gather like sharks, coordinating their attacks with brutal efficiency. Gross Admiral Karl Donitz has refined submarine warfare to a science. His strategy is elegantly simple: sink merchant ships faster than the Allies can build them. Destroy the cargo vessels that carry food, fuel, weapons, and raw materials from America to Britain. Sever the lifeline. Force Britain to negotiate peace. Every convoy sunk brings Germany closer to victory in the Atlantic. And if Germany wins in the Atlantic, she wins the war. Donitz runs his U-boat campaign from a fortified bunker in Paris, a former French naval headquarters now converted into the nerve center of the Kriegsmarine submarine fleet. Here, behind 3 feet of reinforced concrete, he tracks every U-boat in the Atlantic on massive plotting tables. Radio operators monitor encrypted transmissions. Intelligence analysts decode Allied convoy routes. The operation runs with mechanical German efficiency. Mein Admiral. An aide approaches Donitz's desk with a decoded message. U-230 reports sinking a 7,000-ton freighter from convoy C-122. Hartmann's 4th kill this patrol. Donitz nods, marking the kill on his chart. He is 61 years old, a veteran of the First World War's submarine campaigns, when he himself commanded U-boats in the Mediterranean. Now, 25 years later, he has built the most formidable submarine force the world has ever seen. But he is troubled. The numbers are good, excellent, even. March 1943 is shaping up to be the most successful month of the entire war for his U-boats. And yet, something in the intelligence reports bothers him. Reports from agents in America speak of unprecedented shipbuilding activity. Hundreds of new merchant vessels entering service. But surely that cannot be accurate. Surely no nation could build ships at the rate these reports suggest. What is the current estimate of enemy merchant ship construction? Donitz asks his chief of staff. The officer consults a file. Allied construction is estimated at approximately 150,000 tons per month, Herr Admiral. We are sinking approximately 600,000 tons per month. The ratio remains favorable. Donitz studies the charts. By his calculations, if his U-boats maintain their current kill rate, the Allies will lose their merchant fleet capacity by autumn. Britain will be isolated. Roosevelt will be unable to supply his ally across the Atlantic. The war will be won. But there is something he doesn't know. Something his intelligence services have failed to grasp. In the shipyards of America, a revolution is underway. Henry J. Kaiser doesn't look like a revolutionary. At 61 years old, with his round face, wire-rimmed glasses, and conservative business suits, he resembles a banker or an accountant more than the man who will change the course of the war. But Kaiser possesses something more valuable than military genius or tactical brilliance. He understands mass production. Before the war, Kaiser built dams: the Hoover Dam, the Grand Gully Dam, monuments of concrete and steel that transformed the American West. He learned to manage massive labor forces, to coordinate complex logistics, to solve engineering problems through innovation rather than tradition. When war comes, He turns those skills toward shipbuilding. The problem is simple. America needs merchant ships. Thousands of them. The British need food, the Russians need tanks and ammunition, the American forces assembling in England need everything. All of it must cross the Atlantic in the holds of merchant vessels. But traditional shipbuilding is slow. A single Liberty ship, built using conventional methods, takes 8 to 10 months to complete. Kaiser looks at this problem and sees something no one else sees, an opportunity. In 1941, he approaches the U.S. Maritime Commission with a radical proposal. Give him the contracts, he says, and he'll build these ships faster than anyone thinks possible. Not in 8 months. Not in 6 months. But in weeks. The Maritime Commission is skeptical. Kaiser has never built a ship in his life. But America is desperate, and Roosevelt's administration is willing to gamble on audacity. They approve contracts for 2 shipyards, one in Richmond, California, and one in Portland, Oregon, and hand Kaiser the blueprints for the EC-2SC-1 Liberty ship. The Liberty ship is designed for speed of construction, not elegance. It's a simple, no-frills freighter, 441 feet long, 56 feet wide, powered by a 3-cylinder steam engine that produces 2,500 horsepower. It can carry 10,000 tons of cargo at 11 knots. The design is basic, utilitarian, ugly. Maritime traditionalists sneer at it. But Kaiser sees perfection, a design so simple it can be mass-produced like automobiles. In January 1942, the first Liberty ship, Patrick Henry, is launched from Baltimore. It takes 244 days to build. By conventional standards, this is respectable. But Kaiser knows he can do better. Much better. He imports techniques from automobile manufacturing assembly line principles, prefabrication, standardization. Instead of building the ship in one piece, he breaks the construction into hundreds of smaller components. Entire hull sections are fabricated in one area, deckhouses in another, engine rooms in a third. Then these massive pre-assembled sections, some weighing 40 tons or more, are lifted by crane and welded together on the slipway. Traditional shipbuilding uses rivets, time-consuming, labor-intensive. Kaiser uses welding. Welding is faster, requires less skilled labor, creates stronger seams. He hires welders by the thousands. Many are women. Rosie the riveters and Wendy the welders, housewives and farm girls trained in 6-week crash courses. They work in 3 shifts, round the clock. The yards never sleep. By mid-1942, Kaiser's Richmond Shipyard No. 2 is launching a new Liberty ship every 2 weeks. Then every 10 days. Then weekly. The pace accelerates. Kaiser pushes harder, finding inefficiencies, eliminating wasted motion, streamlining every process. In November 1942, Richmond Shipyard No. 2 makes history. Workers begin assembling the Robert E. Peary on November 8. 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes later, on November 12, the Peary slides down the slipway into San Francisco Bay, the fastest construction of a major ship in recorded history. 4 days. The newsreels carry footage of the launching. Crowds cheer. Bands play Anchors Aweigh. Roosevelt sends a congratulatory telegram. But the real significance goes deeper than propaganda. The Robert E. Peary proves that America can build merchant ships faster than Germany can sink them. The equation of the Atlantic War is shifting. By early 1943, 18 American shipyards are producing Liberty ships. The Kaiser yards in Richmond and Portland. The Oregon Shipbuilding Corporation. Houston Shipbuilding. St. John's River Shipbuilding in Jacksonville. Bethlehem Fairfield Shipyards in Baltimore. New England Shipbuilding in Maine. Each yard operates at maximum capacity, launching ships at a rate that would have seemed impossible just 2 years earlier. The typical production time drops to 45 days. Then 30. At peak efficiency, American yards are completing 3 Liberty ships every day, 90 per month, and the rate continues climbing. Admiral Ernest King, Chief of Naval Operations, reviews the production figures in his Pentagon office. The numbers seem fantastical, almost fictional. But they are real. In 1942, American yards launched 597 merchant ships totaling 5.3 million tons. In 1943, the projected total is 1,949 ships over 19 million tons. King picks up his telephone and places a call to the White House. When Roosevelt answers, King's message is brief. "Mr. President, we're going to win the Battle of the Atlantic. The Germans can't sink them fast enough." But in March 1943, Donitz doesn't know this yet. His U-boats are enjoying their greatest success. The Wolf packs savage convoy after convoy. SC-122 loses 13 ships. HX-229 loses 9. The Royal Navy is stretched to breaking point. Churchill later writes that the U-boat peril is the only thing that truly frightens him during the entire war. In U-230, Hartmann plots an intercept course for another convoy reported by reconnaissance aircraft HX-229A, 60 ships steaming northeast toward Liverpool. His crew is exhausted but elated. The patrol has been a triumph. 4 ships sunk, no depth charge damage, plenty of fuel and torpedoes remaining. "We'll hit them at dawn," Hartmann tells his officers over a meal of canned beef and black bread. "The convoy should be in Grid Square B by then. We'll take our position ahead of their course and wait for them to come to us." The U-boat slips through the dark water, hunting. But 3,000 miles west, in shipyards across America, Liberty ships are taking shape with impossible speed. The Robert E. Peary is already at sea, carrying tank engines and ammunition to England. 20 more Liberty ships are within days of launch. Hundreds more are under construction. The tide is turning. The mathematics are shifting. But it will take months before the German High Command understands what is happening. Before they realize that they cannot win a tonnage war against American industrial capacity. Before they understand that for every ship they sink, America is building 3 more. April 3, 1943. Richmond Shipyard No. 2, California. 6:47 a.m. The air tastes of salt water, welding flux, and fresh paint. Margaret Maggie O'Brien adjusts her leather welding gloves and stares up at the massive hull section suspended 30 feet above her head. She's 26 years old, a former department store clerk from Oakland who 6 months ago had never held a welding torch. Now she's part of a crew assembling the SS James K. Polk hull No. 440, and her section is running ahead of schedule. "Lower it down," the crane operator shouts over the industrial cacophony that fills the yard. The shriek of metal on metal, the pneumatic hammerbeat of rivet guns, the roar of acetylene torches, the calls of foremen coordinating 1,000 moving parts. This is the sound of American industry at total war, and it never stops. Not at midnight. Not at dawn. Not on Sundays. The whole section 40 tons of prefabricated steel descends slowly, guided by a dozen workers with ropes and poles. It's section 7B, the starboard quarter of the main deck. Somewhere else in the yard, other crews are assembling the engine room, the bridge superstructure, the cargo booms. In 23 days, all these pieces will come together. In 24 days, the James K. Polk will slide into San Francisco Bay, ready for sea trials. Hold, down 6 inches, steady. The section supervisor, Frank Chen, a Chinese-American foreman who worked in his father's machine shop before the war, guides the piece into position with hand signals. The alignment must be perfect, within a 1/4 inch. There. Lock it down. Maggie moves in with her welding team. 5 women, all trained at the same Richmond Vocational School, all wearing the same canvas coveralls and leather jackets, all carrying the same Lincoln Electric welding rigs. They position themselves along the seam where section 7B meets the hull already laid. "Ready?" asks Sarah Kowalski, Maggie's welding partner. Sarah's husband is with the 101st Airborne, training somewhere in England. She wears his wedding ring on a chain around her neck because it's too large for her fingers. "Ready." Maggie flips down her welding helmet and strikes the arc. The world disappears into brilliant blue-white light. There is only the puddle of molten metal, the steady movement of the electrode, the hiss and crackle of the weld. She works with mechanical precision, laying bead after bead along the seam. Every 6 inches she pauses, checks her work, adjusts her technique. A bad weld can sink a ship. 40 men can die because of a lazy weld. She never forgets this. Behind her, the yard stretches for miles. 12 slipways, 12 Liberty ships in various stages of construction. Way number 1 is empty. They launched the Robert Livingston yesterday, and the crew is already laying the keel blocks for hull 441. Way number 3 has a ship at 70% completion, just waiting for the engine to be lowered in. Way number 7 is almost finished, the vessel painted and ready for her sea trials next Tuesday. Every day, somewhere in America, 3 Liberty ships slide into the water. Every day. 3 per day. 90 per month. Over 1,000 per year at current rates, and the rates keep climbing. Kaiser walks the yard at 7:15 a.m., as he does most mornings when he's in Richmond. He moves from slipway to slipway, talking to foremen, checking progress, solving problems. He doesn't use an office. The shipyard is his office. Mr. Kaiser. Chen waves him over to way number 2. We're 8 hours ahead of schedule on the Poke. If we maintain this pace, we'll have her ready for launch by the 26th. Kaiser examines the work, running his hand along a welded seam, checking the alignment of the hull sections. He nods, satisfied. Good. What's holding up way number 6? Waiting on the engine. It's en route from the manufacturer, should arrive Tuesday. Not good enough. Call them. I want that engine here Monday morning. We're losing time. This is Kaiser's genius, not just building ships fast, but building them faster. Every day saved is another day that cargo gets to England. Another day that Britain stays in the war. He obsesses over efficiency, over eliminating every wasted hour. The numbers are staggering. Richmond Shipyard number 2 alone employs 27,000 workers. The 4 Kaiser yards combined employ 90,000. Across America, 700,000 workers labor in shipyards, building not just Liberty ships but also tankers, Victory ships, escort carriers, destroyers, submarines. The United States has become a shipbuilding machine on a scale never before seen in human history. And it's working. May 8, 1943. BDU Headquarters, Paris. 4:32 p.m. Donitz stares at the loss figures and feels the first cold touch of doubt. April's results, 235,000 tons sunk. Respectable, but significantly down from March's 627,000 tons. And the cost is beginning to hurt. 15 U-boats lost in April. 15. With their crews. Nearly 700 men. At this rate of attrition, he's losing U-boats faster than the shipyards can replace them. But worse than the losses is the intelligence report lying on his desk. It's from an agent in New York, confirmed by intercepted American radio broadcasts and decoded diplomatic cables. The report details American merchant ship construction for the first quarter of 1943. The numbers cannot be correct. They must be Allied disinformation. Captain Hessler, Donitz calls to his son-in-law and chief operations officer. Explain this report. It claims the Americans launched 497 merchant ships in the first quarter alone. Nearly 2 million tons. That's impossible. Hessler enters, carrying additional files. His face is grim. Herr Admiral, we've confirmed the figures through multiple sources. The Americans have created a shipbuilding system unlike anything in history. They're using mass production techniques, assembly lines, prefabrication, welding instead of rivets. Some of these ships are being completed in under 30 days. 30 days. Donitz's voice rises. A cargo ship takes 6 to 8 months to build. Not anymore, sir. Not in America. They're building what they call Liberty Ship Simple, standardized freighters. The design is crude, but effective. And they're producing them at a rate of approximately 3 ships per day. 3 per day. Donitz does the mathematics in his head. 3 ships per day is 90 per month. Over 1,000 per year. His U-boats are currently sinking approximately 40 to 50 ships per month. Even at March's peak rate of 95 ships sunk, they were barely keeping pace with American production. And now, with U-boat losses mounting and Allied anti-submarine tactics improving, the kill rate is declining. What is our current operational strength? Donitz asks quietly. 435 U-boats total, mine Admiral. Approximately 240 at sea at any given time. And how many new boats are the yards delivering? Approximately 25 per month. Donitz walks to the wall-sized chart of the Atlantic. Red pins mark U-boat positions. Blue pins mark reported convoys. The chart should show German dominance. Instead, it shows a battle space that is beginning to shift against him. The arithmetic is brutal. To maintain the current operational tempo with mounting losses, he needs the shipyards to produce more submarines. But German industry is stretched thin, diverting resources to the Eastern Front, to aircraft production, to tank factories. Meanwhile, American industry is operating at a level that seems almost fantastical. We need to increase our kill rate, Donitz says. Order all operational U-boats to prioritize targets. I want every available boat deployed to the North Atlantic convoy routes. We must sink ships faster than they can build them. But even as he gives the order, Donitz knows the truth that he cannot yet speak aloud. They are losing the tonnage war. Not because his U-boat commanders lack courage or skill, not because his tactics are flawed, but because American industrial capacity is simply too vast to overcome. The wolf packs are still dangerous. They will continue to sink ships, to send thousands of tons to the bottom. But for every ship they sink, 3 more slide down American slipways into the water. May 14, 1943. North Atlantic. 52 degrees 17 minutes north, 29 degrees 43 minutes west. The SS John Adams plows through heavy seas, her bow rising and falling in 12-foot swells. She's 37 days old, launched from the New England Shipbuilding Yard in South Portland, Maine, on April 7th. Her captain, Daniel McKenna, is 43 years old, a merchant mariner with 20 years' experience. This is his first voyage on a Liberty ship, and he's still getting used to her peculiarities. Liberty ships handle differently than traditional freighters. They're stiffer in the water, less forgiving in heavy weather. Their welded hulls sometimes crack in cold water, a structural flaw that engineers are still trying to solve. But McKenna has to admit they're sturdy enough. The Adams is carrying 8,000 tons of cargo tanks, trucks, ammunition, canned food, aviation gasoline, and she handles the load well. Captain, radio room reports Admiralty broadcast. The first mate, William Henshaw, appears on the bridge. U-boat warning. Intelligence indicates wolfpack activity in our area. We're to maintain strict blackout and radio silence. McKenna nods. They're part of convoy HX 237-40-2 ships steaming northeast toward Liverpool in 9 columns. The convoy is escorted by 6 destroyers and 2 corvettes, reasonable protection, but not enough to stop a determined wolfpack attack. Around him, the other ships maintain formation, each staying within 500 yards of its neighbors, the entire convoy covering approximately 20 square miles of ocean. What's our position in the convoy? Column 5, third ship. Middle of the pack. Middle is good. Middle means ships on all sides. If the U-boats attack, they'll likely hit the outer columns first, the tankers on the flanks, the stragglers. The middle offers relative safety, though McKenna knows that relative is the key word. In the North Atlantic in May 1943, nowhere is truly safe. In the hold below, Stevedore Lawrence Foster, a Negro worker from Baltimore who loaded the Adams cargo, would be satisfied to know his work is holding firm. Foster loaded the tanks himself, personally secured them with chains and bracing, checked every connection twice. He takes pride in his work, even though the segregated loading crews mean he works longer hours for less pay than white stevedores. The tanks aren't going anywhere. They'll arrive in England intact, ready for combat. McKenna scans the horizon with binoculars. Grey sky, grey water, grey distance. The other ships of the convoy appear as dark shapes in the murk. Somewhere beneath this water, perhaps 20 U-boats are searching for them. The wolfpack tactic is devastatingly effective. One U-boat spots the convoy and radios its position. Other boats converge. They attack at night from multiple directions, overwhelming the escorts. Maintain lookouts, McKenna orders. I want eyes on all quadrants. If anyone spots a periscope, a torpedo wake, anything unusual, I want to know immediately. The hours pass. The convoy steams on. The Adams maintains her position, her engines driving her forward at 9 knots. In her holds, the cargo waits weapons and supplies that will feed the Allied armies preparing for the eventual invasion of Europe. She is one ship. But she is also one of 3 ships launched the day she entered service. And tomorrow, 3 more Liberty ships will launch. And the day after that, 3 more. May 16, 1943. U-456, North Atlantic. 1:43 a.m. Captain Lieutenant Max Martin Teachert has been stalking convoy HX-237 for 6 hours. His U-boat runs on the surface at 15 knots, using her diesel engines, racing to get ahead of the convoy's projected course. Around him, 7 other U-boats are converging on the same target. The Wolf Pack is assembling. Diesel exhaust ahead, the watch officer calls from the conning tower. Bearing 320. Teachert scrambles up the ladder to the bridge. The night is pitch black, perfect hunting conditions. Through his binoculars he can make out the dark shapes of the convoy, still several miles distant. 40, maybe 50 ships. Millions of tons of cargo. A target-rich environment. Radio, send position report to BDU. Convoy HX-237 located at grid square BE 6732, course 065, speed 9 knots. Request Wolf Pack concentration. The radio man taps out the encrypted message in Morse code. Within minutes, the other U-boats will alter course, converging for the attack. Teachert studies the convoy through his binoculars. The ships maintain tight formation, disciplined and professional. He can see the escorts destroyers racing along the flanks, their bows throwing white spray. The British and Canadian Navy have gotten much better at convoy protection. They have better radar now, better sonar, better depth charges. Attacking these convoys is no longer the happy time of 1940–41, when U-boats could surface and sink ships with impunity. But Teachert is confident. His crew is experienced. U-456 has sunk 17 ships in previous patrols. They know what they're doing. Take us down, Teachert orders. Periscope depth. We'll approach submerged and attack from ahead. Surface escorts can't detect us if we're quiet. The U-boat slips beneath the waves. The control room fills with the familiar sounds of submarine operations: the hiss of air valves, the gurgle of flooding ballast tanks, the whine of electric motors. At periscope depth, Teachert makes his approach. At 3:17 a.m., he fires 4 torpedoes at a large freighter, the SS Robert Bacon, from a range of 1,200 meters. 2 torpedoes hit. The Bacon, loaded with grain and timber, breaks in half and sinks in 4 minutes. But then the escorts respond with terrifying efficiency. The destroyer HMS Pathfinder gets a radar contact and comes racing in at 30 knots, her sonar pinging. Before Teachert can reload his tubes, depth charges begin to fall. The U-boat shakes violently. Light bulbs shatter. Men are thrown against bulkheads. A pipe ruptures, spraying water. Teachert orders evasive maneuvers: deep dive, change course, silent running. But the destroyer stays with them, methodical and persistent, dropping charge after charge. For 40 minutes, U-456 endures hell. Finally, mercifully, the destroyer breaks off to return to the convoy. Teachert surfaces to find the convoy gone, disappeared over the horizon. 1 ship sunk. 1 out of 42. The mathematics are shifting. June 1943. The turning point becomes undeniable. That month, 41 U-boats are lost, destroyed by improved Allied anti-submarine tactics, better radar, long-range aircraft, escort carriers that can provide air cover even in the middle of the Atlantic. Donitz loses 20% of his operational force in a single month. Meanwhile, American yards launch 140 Liberty ships in June alone. British yards add another 30 merchant vessels. The Allied merchant fleet is not just surviving, it's growing. The SS John Adams completes her voyage, delivering her cargo intact to Liverpool. Captain McKenna will make 5 more crossings in 1943, surviving U-boat attacks, storms, and equipment failures. The Adams will serve throughout the war, making 18 Atlantic crossings, carrying 88,000 tons of cargo. She will survive the war and continue in merchant service until 1963. She is just 1 ship, but she represents the solution to the U-boat crisis. For every Adams, there are dozens more, hundreds more. Eventually, 2,710 Liberty ships will be built. They will carry 75% of all cargo shipped overseas during World War II. Kaiser's revolution in shipbuilding is winning the Battle of the Atlantic, not through military genius but through simple, overwhelming production capacity. July 24, 1943. Bay of Biscay. 46 degrees 12 minutes north, 6 degrees 37 minutes west. 11:23 a.m. U-459 never sees the aircraft that kills her. Korvettenkapitän George von Wilamowitz-Moellendorff is on the bridge, scanning the sky through binoculars, when the RAF Sunderland flying boat emerges from a cloud bank at 800 feet, already diving for the attack. The four-engine beast roars overhead, and in the 3 seconds it takes von Wilamowitz to scream alarm. The depth charges are already falling. The U-boat is a Type 14 Milchkuh, a milk cow submarine tanker designed to refuel and resupply attack boats at sea. She carries no torpedoes, only diesel fuel, provisions, spare parts, and mail from home. She's fat, slow, and in this moment, utterly defenseless. Dive! 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 But there's no time. The first depth charge detonates 20 feet off the port beam. The blast lifts the entire submarine partially out of the water. The pressure hull ruptures. Water floods the control room in a crushing torrent. Von Wilamowitz is thrown against the periscope housing, his skull fracturing on impact. He dies instantly, which is a mercy. The 52 other men aboard have no such luck. U-459 sinks in 45 seconds, taking her crew to the bottom. The Sunderland circles once, marking the oil slick and debris field, then radios the kill to RAF Coastal Command. That's U-boat number 237 destroyed in 1943. It's only July. The Bay of Biscay has become a killing ground. Allied aircraft patrol the transit routes constantly, hunting U-boats as they move between their bases in France and their operational areas in the Atlantic. The submarines must surface to recharge batteries and run their diesel engines. When they surface, they die. Donitz responds by ordering U-boats to cross the bay in groups, to fight their way through with anti-aircraft guns. But the aircraft adapt, attacking in coordinated pairs. The U-boats fight back desperately, their 20mm and 37mm flak guns blazing at the attackers, but aircraft are faster, more maneuverable, harder to hit. The Bay of Biscay earns a new nickname among submariners, Death Valley. In July 1943, Donitz loses 37 U-boats. In all theaters, all causes, but most in the transit zones, most to aircraft. The ratio is unsustainable. At this rate, his entire operational force will be destroyed within 6 months. August 2, 1943. Portland, Oregon. Kaiser Shipyard. 2:15 p.m. The SS William Mulholland slides down way number 4 into the Columbia River, throwing up a massive wave that rocks the small boats gathered for the launching ceremony. She's hull number 726 from the Oregon Shipbuilding Corporation, the 1,245th Liberty ship completed overall. The crowd on the riverbank cheers. A band plays. Portland Mayor Earl Riley gives a brief speech about American determination and industrial might. Henry Kaiser isn't present. He's in Washington, D.C., meeting with Admiral King about escort carrier production. But his presence is felt in every rivet, every weld, every streamlined process that brought this ship from keel laying to launch in 32 days. Watching from the yard supervisor's office is James Thompson, a production manager who came to Portland from Detroit's automotive industry. Thompson treats shipbuilding like automobile assembly, breaking complex processes into simple, repeatable tasks. Every worker specializes. Every motion is optimized. Time is the enemy, and efficiency is victory. That's 6 this week, Thompson remarks to his assistant, checking the production schedule. Richmond launched 8. Baltimore launched 4. We're at 18 ships this week across all yards. 72 this month so far. The numbers have become almost routine. What seemed impossible in 1941 is now standard operating procedure. The yards are hitting their stride, refining processes, solving problems. Some Liberty ships are now being completed in as few as 24 days from keel laying to launch. The average construction time is down to 42 days. And it's not just Liberty ships. The Maritime Commission has ordered a new, improved design, the Victory ship, faster and more capable. The first one will launch in January 1944. Beyond that, the yards are building T2 tankers, attack transports, and the components for the Mulberry Harbours that will make the Normandy invasion possible. Thomson walks the yard, clipboard in hand, checking progress on hull 727. The keel was laid yesterday. Already, prefabricated hull sections are arriving from the assembly areas, trucked in on massive flatbeds. A crew of 200 workers swarms over the framework, welding, cutting, fitting. In 5 weeks, this skeleton of steel will be a functioning ship. Mr. Thomson. A young foreman runs up, breathing hard. We've got a problem with the engine for hull 724. The reduction gear has a manufacturing defect. The engine won't pass inspection. Thomson doesn't pause. Strip it out. Call San Francisco. Tell them we need a replacement gear by Thursday morning. Air freight if necessary. We're not delaying the schedule. This is the difference. In traditional shipbuilding, a defective component might delay construction for weeks while parts are ordered through regular channels. Kaiser's yards maintain massive inventories, have backup suppliers, can air freight critical components across the country if needed. Problems are solved with money and speed rather than patience. The Mulholland will conduct sea trials next week. The week after, she'll load cargo in Seattle, probably aircraft engines and spare parts, and join a convoy bound for Liverpool. 4 weeks after launch, she'll be in combat service. This is the new reality of maritime warfare. August 14, 1943. U-boats west of Ireland. 54 degrees 33 minutes north, 18 degrees 22 minutes west. 10:47 p.m. Oberleutnant Sir C. Heinrich Müller watches through U-664's periscope as another Liberty ship steams past, untouched. She's part of convoy On-196, 43 ships westbound from England to America. The convoy is protected by 2 destroyers, 3 corvettes, and most critically an escort carrier, HMS Biter, whose aircraft patrol continuously in a circle around the merchant ships. Müller has been stalking this convoy for 18 hours. He cannot attack. Every time he tries to maneuver into position, one of the Biter's Swordfish aircraft appears overhead, forcing him to dive. He's used half his battery capacity on evasive maneuvers. He's accomplished nothing. Captain, his first watch officer says quietly, "We should break off. We're wasting time and fuel." Müller knows he's right. This convoy is too well protected. The escort carrier has changed everything. There is no longer a black pit beyond the range of aircraft. Now, the aircraft travel with the convoys, providing continuous air cover. The Wolfpack tactic requires U-boats to surface, to coordinate by radio, to mass for attack. But surfacing means exposure to aircraft. Radio transmissions are detected and homed by Allied direction-finding equipment. Everything that made the Wolfpacks effective now makes them vulnerable. Set course for Grid B-73, Müller orders. We'll try to intercept the eastbound convoy reported there. But he knows the truth. The Atlantic is no longer a hunting ground for U-boats. It's become a graveyard. In his 5 months in command, Müller has sunk exactly 2 ships, 1 straggler, 1 independent that wasn't in convoy. Meanwhile, he's lost 3 friends, 5 classmates from submarine school, and his former commander. All dead. All at the bottom of the Atlantic. The mathematics that Donitz calculated so carefully in 1942 have reversed. Then, Germany was building U-boats faster than they could be sunk, and sinking merchant ships faster than they could be built. Now, U-boats are being destroyed faster than the yards can replace them, and Allied merchant ship construction has reached levels that make every U-boat loss catastrophic. U-664 slips through the dark water, hunting ghosts. 2 weeks later, on August 9th, she will be caught on the surface by a Catalina flying boat. The aircraft will attack with rockets and depth charges. U-664 will sink with all hands. Müller will be 24 years old. September 11, 1943. Western approaches command. Liverpool. 9:17 a.m. Commander Roger Wynne removes the last red pin from the North Atlantic chart. It represents U-377, sunk yesterday by HMS Eclipse south of Iceland. For the first time since January 1942, No U-boats are known to be actively operating against convoys in the North Atlantic. It's quiet, Wynne says to no one in particular. The map room, usually buzzing with activity, feels almost peaceful. The plots show convoys crossing safely. The loss figures for September are minimal, perhaps 10 ships, a fraction of the catastrophic losses of March. Admiral Max Houghton, Commander-in-Chief of Western Approaches, studies the chart with satisfaction. Donitz has pulled them back. Intelligence reports most operational boats are being diverted to the Mediterranean or held in port. He's conceding the North Atlantic. Can we believe it? Asks Jane Morrison, still updating her meticulous logs. After everything. Houghton nods. The numbers don't lie. We sank 41 U-boats in May, 37 in July. He can't sustain those losses. And meanwhile, Houghton pulls out a Maritime Commission report. The Americans launched 142 Liberty ships in August. 142. In a single month. Wynne does the mathematics mentally. At peak efficiency, the U-boats sank 95 ships in 1 month, March 1943. That was their best performance of the entire war. And the Americans alone, not counting British and Canadian yards, are now producing more than 140 ships per month. The gap isn't just closing. It has reversed. How many Liberty ships total now? Morrison asks. Wynne checks his notes. Approximately 1,200 completed or under construction. The Maritime Commission estimates they'll reach 2,500 by the end of 1944. 2,500 ships. Each capable of carrying 10,000 tons of cargo. That's 25 million tons of shipping capacity, enough to supply not just Britain, but the massive Allied armies assembling for the invasion of Europe. Enough to ship tanks to Russia, supplies to the Pacific, food to liberated territories. We've won, Houghton says quietly. Not the war, but this battle. The Battle of the Atlantic. We've won it. Wynne thinks of all the red pins he's placed on this chart over the past 3 years. Each one represents a ship. Each ship represents 50 or 60 men. Thousands of merchant mariners dead. Thousands more in the U-boats, equally dead. The arithmetic of war is written in bodies as much as tonnage. But yes, they've won. September 22, 1943. BDU headquarters, Berlin, relocated from Paris. 3:45 p.m. Donitz delivers his report to Adolf Hitler in the Reich Chancellery. The Führer sits behind his massive desk, studying the charts and figures with growing agitation. Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring is also present. Looking smug U-boat failures make the Luftwaffe look better by comparison. Explain these losses, Hitler demands. 78 boats in 3 months? How is this possible? Donitz chooses his words carefully. Hitler does not respond well to bad news. Mein Führer, the enemy has developed new tactics and technologies that have decisively changed the balance in the Atlantic. Escort carriers provide continuous air cover. Improved radar can detect surfaced U-boats in darkness and fog. Long-range aircraft patrol transit zones. Our losses have become unsustainable. Then build more U-boats. We are, Mein Führer. But the enemy is building merchant ships faster than we can sink them. American production capacity exceeds our most pessimistic estimates. They are launching over 100 ships per month. Our current operational strength allows us to sink perhaps 30 to 40 ships per month, and that's with unacceptable losses. Hitler stands, pacing. So you are telling me we have lost the Atlantic? Donitz meets his gaze. We have lost the tonnage war, yes. We cannot prevent the build-up of Allied forces in England. We cannot starve Britain into submission. Those objectives are no longer achievable with submarine warfare alone. The words hang in the air like smoke. Hitler's face darkens, but he says nothing. The silence stretches. Finally, he speaks. What do you recommend? We continue operations, but with modified objectives. Use U-boats to tie down Allied escort forces, to force them to maintain convoy systems, to create uncertainty. But we cannot win through tonnage warfare. American industry is simply too powerful. It's the closest Donitz can come to saying what he truly believes, that Germany has lost the war. That no matter how brave the U-boat crews, no matter how sophisticated the tactics, they cannot overcome the fundamental reality of industrial capacity. America alone is outproducing all of Germany in every category: ships, aircraft, tanks, weapons. Add Britain and the Soviet Union to the equation, and the conclusion is inevitable. But he cannot say this to Hitler. Not directly. So he speaks of modified objectives and strategic patience. Hitler dismisses him coldly. As Donitz leaves the Chancellery, he knows that hundreds of young men will still go to sea in U-boats. That they will hunt and kill and die in the Atlantic, in the Mediterranean, in the Arctic. That the war will grind on for another 19 months. But the Battle of the Atlantic is over. The Liberty ships have won it. October 3, 1943. The Atlantic Ocean. 49 degrees 27 minutes north, 31 degrees 15 minutes west. The SS Jeremiah O'Brien steams through calm seas as part of convoy C-143. She was launched from the New England Shipbuilding Yard in South Portland, Maine, on June 19, 56 days ago. This is her second Atlantic crossing. Her holds are packed with ammunition, jeeps, and medical supplies. On the bridge, third mate Walter Billings stands the afternoon watch. He's 19 years old, from Portland, Maine, fresh out of Merchant Marine Academy. This is his first ship, his first war, and so far it's been almost boring. No U-boat attacks. No excitement. Just endless grey water and the steady thrum of the engine. He doesn't know that the O'Brien will survive the war. That she'll participate in the D-Day invasion at Normandy. That she'll make 11 Atlantic crossings and be one of only 2 Liberty ships preserved as a museum ship, still operational in the 21st century. All he knows is that the crossing is quiet. That the convoy steams unmolested toward Liverpool. That somewhere behind him, in American shipyards, another 15 Liberty ships will launch this week. The tide has turned. The arithmetic has shifted. America is building ships faster than Germany can sink them, and the margin isn't even close anymore. Below decks, in the crew's quarters, the men play poker and write letters home. They complain about the food, about the cramped spaces, about the monotony. They don't know they're witnessing history. That they're riding the wave of American industrial power that will win the war. The Jeremiah O'Brien plows on through Atlantic swells, carrying her cargo toward England. She is one ship among hundreds. One rivet in the bridge that links America to Europe. One small piece of the machine that will ultimately crush Nazi Germany through the simple, brutal mathematics of production. Behind her, the shipyards work. The welders weld. The cranes lift. The ships slide into the water. 3 per day. Every day. The U-boats cannot win against this. No one can. November 18, 1943. Flensburg, Germany. U-boat training facility. 6:42 a.m. Lieutenant Sir C. Carl Brenner stands at attention in the cold morning air, watching as his class of 42 submarine officers receives their assignments. He's 21 years old, trained for 18 months in the theory and practice of submarine warfare, and in 3 weeks he'll take command of U-1055, currently completing her trials in Kiel. This should be the proudest moment of his life. Instead, he feels only a hollow dread. The statistics are classified, but everyone knows them anyway. U-boat crews talk. The numbers leak through. Of the 42 men in Brenner's class, perhaps 15 will survive the war. Maybe fewer. The average operational lifespan of a U-boat in late 1943 is 2 patrols. 2 patrols before the depth charges find you, before the aircraft catches you surfaced, before the destroyer runs you down. Brenner. The training officer calls his name. U-1055. Type VIIC. Report to Kiel on the 22nd for familiarization. Jawohl, Herr Kapitän. But Brenner's mind is elsewhere. Last week, his friend Otto Schreiber sailed on U-340. 5 days later, U-340 was sunk by a British destroyer off the coast of Spain. All hands lost. Otto was 22 years old. They'd trained together, drank together, talked about what they'd do after the war. Now Otto is fish food at the bottom of the Bay of Biscay. The training officer delivers a speech about duty and honor and the importance of the submarine service. But his words ring hollow. Everyone in this formation knows the truth. They are being sent to die. Not for victory, that's no longer possible. But because the war machine requires bodies, requires sacrifice, requires men willing to climb into steel coffins and descend into dark water. After dismissal, Brenner walks alone to the harbor, watching fishing boats move across the grey Baltic. Somewhere across this sea, across the North Atlantic, the Liberty ships are crossing in their hundreds. His scene the intelligence estimates. America is producing ships at a rate that defies comprehension. For every merchant vessel the U-boats sink, 4 or 5 more take its place. He thinks about requesting a transfer. To surface ships. To coastal defense. Anywhere but submarines. But that would be cowardice, and cowardice means disgrace, means a firing squad or worse. So he will go to Kiel. He will take command of U-1055. He will hunt Allied convoys in the Atlantic. And he will almost certainly die. U-1055 will sail on her first patrol in January 1944. She will be sunk on April 30, 1944, by the destroyer escort USS Barber. Karl Brenner will not survive. He will be one of 28,000 German submariners killed during World War I, a casualty rate of 75%, the highest of any military service in the war. December 7, 1943. Richmond, California. Kaiser Shipyard No. 2. 11:33 a.m. Henry J. Kaiser stands on the launching platform as the SS Benjamin Warner slides down the slipway into San Francisco Bay. She's hull number 934 from Richmond Yard No. 2. The 1,500th Liberty ship completed overall. The crowd cheers. Newsreel cameras roll. A Navy band plays Anchors Aweigh. Kaiser delivers a brief speech to the assembled workers. 2 years ago, he says, his voice amplified by loudspeakers across the yard, experts told me it was impossible to build a ship in less than 6 months. They said mass production techniques couldn't be applied to shipbuilding. They said we'd fail. He pauses, looking out at the thousands of workers, welders, fitters, crane operators, painters, electricians, men and women, black and white, young and old, Americans all. Today we launch our 934th ship from this yard alone. Across America, 18 shipyards are producing Liberty ships. We're launching over 140 ships per month. We've built 1,500 Liberty ships in less than 2 years. And we're not slowing down. We're speeding up. The workers cheer. They understand what they've accomplished. They've built a fleet larger than existed in the entire world before the war. They've created the maritime bridge that's keeping Britain alive, that's feeding Russia, that's supplying the armies that will liberate Europe. After the ceremony, Kaiser meets with Maritime Commission officials in his office overlooking the yard. The production figures are staggering. The 18 Liberty shipyards have now achieved an average construction time of 39 days from keel laying to launch. Some ships are completed in less than 3 weeks. The yards are operating at peak efficiency, churning out vessels at a rate that still seems almost impossible even to those who witness it daily. What's the total projection for 1944? Kaiser asks. Admiral Howard Vickery, Vice Chairman of the Maritime Commission, consults his notes. At current rates, we'll complete approximately 1,200 Liberty ships in 1944. Combined with T2 tankers, Victory ships, and other merchant construction, we're looking at total production of over 15 million tons. 15 million tons. In a single year. Kaiser walks to the window, looking out at the 12 slipways, each occupied by a ship in some stage of construction. Beyond the yard, he can see San Francisco Bay, dotted with ships, Liberty ships waiting to load cargo, tankers heading out to sea, destroyers escorting them to safe water. This is victory. Not the victory of battles and invasions that will come later, but the victory of production, of industrial capacity, of America's ability to outbuild any enemy in the world. The Germans calculated that they could sink ships faster than the Allies could replace them. They were wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Gentlemen, Kaiser says, turning back to his visitors, the war isn't over. But we've won our part of it. The U-boats can't stop us. Nothing can stop us. American industry has proven that democracy can produce, can innovate, can achieve things that totalitarian systems only dream about. He's right. By the end of 1943, the Battle of the Atlantic is effectively over. The U-boats continue to fight, continue to sink ships, but they cannot alter the fundamental equation. Allied merchant shipping capacity is growing, not shrinking. The build-up of forces in Britain for the invasion of Europe proceeds unhindered. The Liberty ships have won. February 14, 1944. North Atlantic. 52 degrees 18 minutes north, 22 degrees 41 minutes west. 2:17 a.m. Captain Lieutenant Klaus Hartmann, the same Hartmann who sank the William C. Gorgas 11 months ago, brings U-230 to periscope depth and scans the horizon. He's searching for convoy HX-280, reported by reconnaissance to be in this area. But the ocean is empty, dark, silent. Nothing, Hartmann mutters. Continue search pattern. U-230 has been at sea for 38 days. In that time, Hartmann has sunk exactly one ship, a 4,000-ton freighter that strayed from its convoy. One ship. His previous patrol, from September to November 1943, yielded 0 kills. Before that, in July, he managed to sink 2 small coastal vessels. The glory days are over. The wolf packs no longer mass for coordinated attacks. There aren't enough U-boats, and Allied anti-submarine tactics have become too effective. Now, U-boats patrol alone or in pairs, picking off stragglers when they can, running from escorts, diving from aircraft. It's not hunting. It's survival. Captain, hydrophone contact, the sound operator reports. Multiple screws, bearing 090. Sounds like a convoy. Hartmann alters course, trying to intercept. But before he can reach attack position, his radar detector begins screaming an aircraft nearby, using radar to search for surface submarines. Emergency dive. Take us down to 150 meters. U-230 crashes beneath the waves. The crew waits in tense silence. After 20 minutes, Hartmann returns to periscope depth and searches again. The convoy has passed, untouched. He's missed his chance. This is how patrols go now. Opportunities missed. Convoys too well protected. Aircraft everywhere. The vast Atlantic has become a cage. Hartmann thinks about the conversation he had with Admiral Donitz before this patrol. The Admiral looked exhausted, aged beyond his years. Do your best, Donitz told him. Sink what you can. But understand that we cannot win through submarines alone. We can only delay the inevitable. Delay the inevitable. That's what they're fighting for now. Not victory. Just time. U-230 will return to France in March 1944 with 1 ship sunk. Hartmann will survive the war, one of the lucky ones. But 783 U-boats will be destroyed during the war. 28,000 submariners will die. The Kriegsmarine's U-boat arm will be almost completely annihilated. And it will accomplish nothing. The Atlantic lifeline will remain open. The supplies will flow. The armies will assemble. June 6, 1944. Omaha Beach, Normandy. 6:47 a.m. The SS Charles Morgan lies anchored 2 miles off the invasion beach, her holds open, cargo booms working furiously to transfer ammunition and supplies into landing craft. She was launched from the Bethlehem Fairfield shipyard in Baltimore 97 days ago. She loaded her cargo 3,000 tons of ammunition, 2,000 tons of rations, 1,500 tons of medical supplies in New York Harbor and crossed the Atlantic in convoy. Now she's part of the greatest amphibious invasion in history. Captain Robert Hendricks stands on the bridge, watching the beach through binoculars. He can see the chaos landing craft burning, men struggling through the surf under German machine gun fire, tanks bogged down in the sand. The invasion is not going according to plan. But the supplies keep flowing. The Liberty ships keep delivering. Captain, the LCVP is ready for the next load, the first mate reports. Send them in. Keep the flow moving. Those men on the beach need everything we've got. The Morgan is one of 47 Liberty ships participating in Operation Neptune, the naval component of D-Day. They carry the fuel, ammunition, food, and equipment that will sustain the invasion. Without them, the assault would fail. But they're here, in overwhelming numbers, because American shipyards spent 2 years building them faster than anyone thought possible. On the beach, soldiers from the 1st Infantry Division pinned down by German fire are being resupplied with ammunition carried in the holds of Liberty ships. Medics treat wounded with supplies brought from America in Liberty ships. Tank crews refuel their vehicles with gasoline pumped from Liberty ships. The invasion succeeds, ultimately, because logistics wins wars. And American logistics embodied in 2,710 Liberty ships is unbeatable. September 12, 1944. Richmond, California. Kaiser Shipyard No. 2. 3:15 p.m. Maggie O'Brien, the welder we met in Section 2, puts down her torch and removes her welding helmet. She's just completed the final seam on hull number 1487, the SS Robert F. Hoke. The ship is finished. Complete. Ready for launch tomorrow. That's it, says Sarah Kowalski, Maggie's welding partner. That's my last ship. Mine too, Maggie replies. The Maritime Commission has just announced that Liberty ship production will wind down over the next 6 months. The emergency has passed. The merchant fleet is no longer in crisis. In fact, there are more merchant ships than cargo to fill them. Some Liberty ships are being held in reserve, anchored in bays and rivers, waiting for missions that may never come. The two women walk together toward the yard gates for the last time. Around them, other workers are also leaving laid off, reassigned, or simply moving on to other war work. The massive workforce that built 747 Liberty ships at this yard alone is dissolving. What will you do? Sarah asks. Maybe go back to the store, Maggie says. Or maybe not. I kind of got used to building ships. They've accomplished something extraordinary, though they may not fully realize it. In 3 years, American women and men, working in 18 shipyards, produced 2,710 Liberty ships. They built them faster than anyone thought possible. They revolutionized shipbuilding. They won the Battle of the Atlantic not with weapons, but with rivets and steel and welding torches. The final Liberty ship, the SS Albert MBOE, will be launched on October 30, 1945, from the California Shipbuilding Corporation. By then, the war will be over. Germany will have surrendered. Japan will have surrendered. The world will be rebuilding. And 2,710 Liberty ships will be the reason why. May 4, 1945. Flensburg, Germany. U-boat headquarters. 11:27 a.m. Gross Admiral Karl Donitz, now the head of the German government following Hitler's suicide, signs the order for all U-boats to cease offensive operations and return to base. It's over. Germany has lost. The war is ending. Donitz sits alone in his office, reviewing the final statistics of the U-boat campaign. The numbers are devastating. 783 U-boats destroyed. 28,000 submariners killed. 175 Allied warships sunk. 2,603 merchant ships sunk. 13.5 million tons of shipping destroyed. On paper, it looks impressive. 2,603 ships sunk. But then Donitz looks at the Allied production figures, obtained from intelligence sources. 2,710 Liberty ships built. Over 5,000 total merchant vessels constructed during the war. Allied merchant fleet actually larger at war's end than at war's beginning. He sank 2,603 ships. The Allies built over 5,000. The mathematics are brutally clear. He lost. Not because his men lacked courage, they were the bravest of the brave. Not because his tactics were flawed, the Wolfpack doctrine was sound. He lost because American industrial capacity was simply too vast to overcome. One nation, America, alone outproduced all of Germany. Added Britain and Canada to the equation, and the imbalance was overwhelming. The U-boats never had a chance, not really. They were fighting mathematics, and mathematics cannot be defeated by courage. Donitz will spend 10 years in prison for war crimes. He'll be released in 1956 and live until 1980, long enough to see reunified Germany and the end of the Cold War. But he'll never forget the lesson of the Liberty ships, that wars are won by production, by logistics, by the unglamorous work of shipyard workers and welders and crane operators. The Battle of the Atlantic was lost in Richmond, California, in Portland, Oregon, in Baltimore, Maryland, in all the shipyards where American workers outbuilt the German war machine. Epilogue. The Liberty ships continued to serve long after the war ended. Many were sold to commercial shipping lines and operated into the 1960s and 1970s. Some were converted to carry grain, others to haul ore. A few were mothballed and kept in reserve fleets for decades, just in case they were needed again. 3 Liberty ships still exist today as museum ships: the SS Jeremiah Bryan in San Francisco, the SS John W. Brown in Baltimore, and the SS Arthur M. Huddell, which was converted to a cruise ship. The O'Brien and Brown are still operational. They can still sail, still carry cargo, still perform the mission they were built for 80 years ago. Stand on the deck of the Jeremiah O'Brien today, and you can still smell the diesel oil, still hear the thrum of the engine, still feel the ship roll in the swells. You can walk the same decks that carried ammunition to Normandy, that dodged U-boats in the Atlantic, that won the tonnage war. The Liberty ships were never beautiful. They were never fast or glamorous. They were welded, not riveted, built for speed of construction, not elegance. But they were exactly what was needed when they were needed. They were the right ship, at the right time, built by the right people. 2,710 ships. Built in 3 years. Averaging 1 ship every 18 hours at peak production. Carrying 75% of all cargo shipped overseas during World War II. The German U-boats couldn't sink them fast enough. No one could. In the end, the Battle of the Atlantic was won not by admirals or submarines or naval tactics, but by American welders working 3 shifts a day in shipyards from Maine to California. It was won by Henry Kaiser's revolutionary production methods. It was won by the simple, overwhelming power of American industry operating at total capacity. The Liberty ships saved Britain from starvation. They supplied Russia with the weapons to defeat Germany in the East. They carried the armies that liberated Europe. They won the war not through firepower, but through cargo capacity. And they proved something essential about democracy, about free societies, about what America could accomplish when fully mobilized. That no totalitarian system, no matter how efficient or ruthless, can match the productive capacity of a free people united in common cause. The Liberty ships were built by democracy. And they won the war democracy was fighting. That's their legacy. That's their story. That's how 2,710 ugly, unglamorous, mass-produced freighters changed the course of human history.